Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Today we have an update with Outback Goldfields. The company announced the acquisition of Finnish gold assets earlier this year. Joining us today are CEO Chris Donaldson and Senior Technical Advisor Dr. Chris Leslie. We'll be doing an update from management followed by a Q&A session. So if you have any questions, please put them into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. And as always, today's presentation will contain forward-looking statements. If you'd like to learn more about those, you can find them in the presentation on the company's website. And with that out of the way, welcome, Chris.
Thanks for having us. I appreciate you guys setting this up. As mentioned, everybody. Thanks for taking the time to hear about Outback and our new acquisition that we're going through right now and concurrent financing. I'm really excited about talking with you guys today about this. This is the best opportunity that I've come across in my 20 plus years in the business. I've got with me Dr. Chris Leslie, who's our Senior Technical Advisor. Chris was part of the Blackwater discovery, big gold discovery that's going into being commissioned right now up in British Columbia. So what's happening right now with Outback? It's think of it as a new venture. We're restructuring and are in the midst of acquiring a basket of assets in Finland that we're very excited about. It's a deal we've been working on for almost 2 years. Don't think I'd be able to have signed this deal if we started today. So happy to have that in our fold, and it's contingent on us raising money, and we're well on our way to finishing that this summer. So we've got a very clear path of what we want to do going forward once the transaction closes here in the next few weeks. But I think it's important to understand how we got here. So as Outback Goldfields, as the name suggests, we were Australian focused. So in 4 years ago, we acquired some land, early stage gold projects in and around the Fosterville mine in Victoria, Australia. Had some reasonable success. There was a bit of excitement in that market. Ran into some challenges though, for various reasons. The biggest one was COVID, and we got shut down for almost 2 years, and came out of that in a very difficult gold market. So during that time, we started looking, what could we do to breathe some life into this, bring on some new projects, and started talking to a group called S2 Resources. So now S2 is a company that is Australian, have some properties in Australia. But their main focus were some really interesting assets in Finland, in the central Lapland district. And those are the ones that we're acquiring. Interesting, they had a kind of the similar situation that we had. So they had the foresight to go into this district, which is becoming a globally significant gold district. They were able to tie up a bunch of properties in 2017. They advanced them in 2017 and 18. And started their drilling campaign in 2019 and 2020, where they made a maiden discovery, some very good holes towards the end of 2020. Unfortunately, COVID hit. They were Australian based and had to head back to Australia. So they never followed up on their discovery hits, and the project kind of sat there. During the time that COVID was on, they also had applied for a land auction in and around the Fosterville mine in Australia. And they basically won the lottery there. They were awarded the key piece that surrounds the mine. So their focus changed. They didn't want to operate in 2 different jurisdictions. They have major spending commitments in Australia. So they decided to look for a partner or to sell off the Finnish assets. And that's where we came in. So originally, we were going to joint venture with them with just one of our projects. The idea now is we are going to joint venture all of our Australian projects to S2, and we are acquiring their Finnish projects into Outback. So Outback will go through a name change. Our focus will be entirely in Finland, but we will maintain an interest in the Australian properties. So that brings us to today. What are we acquiring? Well, we're getting 4 properties that we own 100% or will own 100%. One with walk-up targets that have a maiden discovery on. The basket assets we're acquiring also includes 2 joint ventures that are existing, one with Kinross Gold and one with Rupert Resources. And all of them are in the same area in the Lapland district of Finland. And then again, we'll have a third JV with our projects in Australia. So S2 is definitely not giving away these projects. We're acquiring it for a total consideration of $7 million Canadian. And they will maintain about a 35 to 40% interest in Outback. So it's more of a partnership for us going forward. We're very excited about that. We have a good working relationship with them, and they have a very good technical experience, which I'll get into. I'll talk a little bit about our team here. First of all, our chairman is Craig Perry. Many of you may know Craig. He's had a lot of success in the mining business. He was one of the founders of NextGen and ISO Energy. He was former chairman of Skeena Resources. He's still on the board. All 3 of those were junior mining companies that are now over $1 billion market caps. He's currently the chairman of Visa Silver as well, which is well on its way to becoming $1 billion market cap. My experience, I've been working with Outback for the last 4 years. Prior to that, I worked with a company called Western Copper and Gold up in the Yukon. I was there for almost 10 years running their corporate development, was able to bring in Rio Tinto for a toehold investment, and we grew that company's market cap considerably from about 20 million to almost 300 during my tenure there. Chris, as mentioned, part of the Blackwater discovery, got his PhD in codes in Australia and technically very, very sound. On the other side, we've for S2 is a gentleman named Mark Bennett. Now, Mark has had a lot of success. He's an Australian, 2-time Prospector of the Year award winner. S2 is actually a spin-out of a company called Sirius Resources. So Sirius had the Nova nickel deposit. Mark was able to grow that deposit up and sell it for $1.8 billion. So very, very experienced and happy to have him join the board and also on the technical team. One person that's quite interesting and maybe fairly well known to the Adelaide crew is George Salama. So George is a friend and someone who I rely on for technical knowledge. And I came to him with what I had in this project a few months ago. And we had a very good discussion. He was interested in the projects that we had. Why he is key that we brought him on as an advisor here, and hopefully his role will expand going forward, is that he was one of the first people to run a junior mining company in Finland. He was vice president of and I'm going to butcher this name, Reader Resources, where he had control of a deposit from 1999 to 2006. He grew up that deposit and sold it to Agnico Eagle in 2006. That deposit is now the Kittilä mine. Kittilä is run by Agnico Eagle. It's the anchor to the whole area and one of the most successful mines out there. Mining Journal actually just ranked it the #3 gold mine in the world. So very happy to have his insight as we plan our maiden campaign, which will hopefully start in September as well. So we've got very good bench strength behind us and a very good team. But let's get into the assets themselves. So what you're looking at here, if you look at the bottom left, this is northern Finland. It's called the Central Lapland District. It's getting a lot of attention recently. There's been some success, some M&A news, some discoveries in the area. As mentioned, the whole area is anchored by this Kittilä mine. Kittilä is Europe's largest gold producer, run by Agnico Eagle. Everything in baby blue that you see is owned by Agnico Eagle. Our projects that we are acquiring is everything you see in red. So this Pana project is our main focus. It's the one that has a maiden discovery, 6.8 meters at almost 12 grams, 20 meters at 4 grams, and we'll get into that. We own that 100%. We own this Rova project 100%, a property called Putanpera 100%, and Ruopas. The 2 joint ventures, one with Kinross is down here, that's called Pulvinen, and Sikavara, which is Rupert, is down here as well. One of the success stories over the last few years is Rupert Resources. They made a discovery right in 2020, around the same time that S2 made the discovery on Arnavalkia. They managed to have grown that to a 4 million ounce resource. and they're almost $1 billion market cap now. So we'd be fortunate to get on the same kind of pathway that they have. I would say the difference between the two projects is they were able to follow up their discovery with quite a bit of drilling and get to that resource right away. Most of these companies are focused on this east-west Circa shear. You've got Rupert here. There's another company called Orion. Orion has a joint venture with B2 Gold. They came and staked properties all around us. They've had quite a bit of success lately, including a recent discovery. Our focus, though, is on these northeast trending shears, the Musa shear, which comes up right through our Pana project, and the Kittilä shear, which comes up through Kittilä and then splays off through our Rover property. There's been 13,000 meters of drilling across all of the tenements. $12.5 million has been spent. The whole area is covered by till, so most of that drilling is shallow drilling under 100 meters, but they've had some pretty good success. So you've seen 300 gram meter hits in the limited drilling that's happened there. So very good start for what they've done so far. I talked about B2 and Orion with a recent discovery. This was only 2 months ago. They made this, it's called the SOAR discovery, 2.5 meters at 26 gram, 40 meters at over a gram. That's less than 1 kilometer from our Putin-Para project. So quite exciting in the area. The other interesting thing is that Rupert has put an offer in to acquire B2's interest in the joint venture, which looks like it's going through for $107 million. The big takeaway for us when we were looking at projects around the world, first of all, this is a greenstone belt. It's fertile landscape. These types of belts house big deposits. And that's why you're seeing so many majors in the area there. You know, you've got Agnico Eagle, you've got B2, Kinross is up here as well. And there are very few juniors. There's us, there's Orion, Rupert, which is, you know, well on its way. It's hardly a junior anymore. And then you've got a couple others. But there's very few districts where there's this concentration of majors and so few juniors in the area. And as a whole, you're seeing discovery occurring over the last number of years, and you're also seeing some in M&A that's happening. So it's a very exciting region to be in. The whole premise is why they went into this area, as mentioned, you know, they were looking at greenstone belts around the world. This belt has not been widely explored. So in comparison to, say, the Abitibi, which has been explored for 125 years, really this area has only been explored for the last 25 or 30. The Finnish government actually made the initial discovery, and at the time when S2 came in and acquired the land, there really was only the Kittilä deposit. So if you look at the distribution, I know it's hard to see these individual mines, but you get the idea that there should be more discovery, excuse me, to come out of this. And we're starting to see that now as we fill in these gaps here. And we hope to obviously add to that as well. I'm going to talk a little about the deal that we're and the financing, and then we'll get into the rocks a bit. As mentioned, we're acquiring this for $7 million Canadian. That's $1.5 million is owed to S2 on completion of the financing. $5.5 million will be issued in shares, and that's how they will get to their 40%. The current share price right now, we are doing the financing at 4 cents. With a full 3-year warrant at 6 cents. There will be a 10-to-1 rollback, so that will, when we start trading, that'll be 40 cents and 60 cents. So financing at 4 cents, full 3-year warrant at 6 cents. And how does that look? So post money, we're going to have a market cap of $12.8 million. So very, very good entry point. I think that offers, you know, some upside immediately. And of course, if we have some drilling success, much further to run there. The total of shares outstanding will be 32 million. We'll have, after we pay the $1.5 million, we'll have a little over $3 million in the bank. That gives us a year's runway and allows us to do a little over $2 million program. And that's contingent on us raising 5. If we raise more, we'll be able able to do a little more. In total, we're acquiring 35,000 hectares at a very reasonable price. If you look at the other companies in the air on the EV per hectare basis. S2 will retain 40% new equity. New investors on this finance will have 40, and existing will have 20. One thing to note is S2 will be locked up for a 3-year period. 100% locked up for the first year, then 40% come trading, and then the balance over the next 2 years. And we can talk about that after if you have questions. So what's really got us exciting is the rocks. I'm not a geologist, so I'll pass it over to Chris in a bit. He was up there with the team a couple of months ago, and lots of takeaways. He came back very, very excited. This area of Finland is, first of all, it's a mining hub. George Salamis lived in Finland for a year, said it was the best place he had ever worked. This area is primarily forestry. There's access roads everywhere to get in. It does get cold. It is snowy, but we were able to look at the core in the end of February without any issues. Most of the drilling actually has occurred in the winter months there. There is a period where you can't explore, and that's during breakup in the spring for about a month, where it gets a bit swampy. There's 5G everywhere, so there's good access on that, and it's not remote. So people drive to the closest towns, which are about 30 minutes away. So we don't need to have a remote camp that's in there. But at the end of the day, it's really the rocks that we're excited about. It's an interesting story that we see. It is early days, but there has been some drilling. There was a discovery, and this is our top hole, which is hole 62. And you see these high grade 20 gram a ton, 31, 9, 13. So you've got high grade intercepts. You've also got long section of low grade. There's a 65 meters at 1.5 grams and 120 meters at about 0.8. So it's very interesting. There's a lot of similarities and parallels between this and Kittilä, which is only 15 kilometers away. This is also similar to what they saw at Great Bear in the early days as well, a potential bulk tonnage story punctuated with these high grade intercepts as well. So with that, Chris, why don't I pass it over to you and talk a little bit of geology here.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. So what we're looking at here is hole 62. This is the discovery hole. We're looking at quartz carbonate veins. These are hosted in deformed Proterozoic rocks. The bleaching or the white coloration of the rocks is strong albite alteration, so sodium alteration, and that's the initial fluid flow that really set up the rocks for the gold mineralizing event. So really strong alteration signature here. We don't have any metallurgical test work, but what we do know based on petrography is that the gold is not necessarily hosted in the crystal lattices of pyrite. It's free gold. We need more work on that as we go forward, but right now it looks pretty good. And we'll provide a little bit of context for this hole on the next slide there, Chris. So this is a map showing the tenements that make up the PANA project, and I'll use the annotation tool here, and we'll just show. So the Rova project is north of PANA. The light blue dots that you see are base of till or top of bedrock collars. The whole area, as Chris mentioned, is covered by till. So a lot of these targets were generated on the basis of an airborne mag interpretation, followed by soil geochemistry, till geochemistry, top of bedrock drilling, followed up by shallow diamond drilling, and then deeper diamond drilling. And what was defined so far is a nice geochem anomaly here at Rova, which is along a splay off the Kittilä shear. But more importantly for us is the Musa shear, which is another north trending shear zone. And there's a few splays off that shear zone. And those two splays were the focus of a lot of the early days top of bedrock drilling and shallow diamond drilling. And what they've defined, the excellent work by S2 from 2017 to 2020, defined the Arnavalkia West and the Arnavalkia East discoveries. So let's zoom in on the Arnavalkia Arnavalkia West discovery. The dashed line represents the footprint of a gold arsenic antimony geochem anomaly. What we're looking at is all the drilling that went into this target, And what they've defined is a gold anomaly that's 1.3 kilometers long, roughly along strike, and it's been drilled to depths of 400 meters. And we'll look at a few sections across here. First, we'll look at a long section, A to A prime, just to look at the distribution of gold mineralization across that 1.3 kilometer trend. And then we'll look at a series of cross sections looking to the north, just to get a better handle on what the orientation of the shear zones are. But right now, most of the drilling, or all the drilling, are west dipping holes chasing east dipping shear zones, which are striking to the north. So this is a section, the long section A to A prime. And I'll use this annotation tool again. Most of the drilling, in fact, 3/4 of the drilling was above that line. That's 100-meter depth. So that's the basotil and shallow diamond drilling. And it was hole FAVD 40, 30 meters at 2 grams per ton with 9 meters at 5 grams per ton. I believe that was a light bulb moment that really gave the S2 team confidence to come back in and drill some deeper holes below that zone. And that's where the discovery was made, hole 62. That was the core that we looked at earlier. Some follow-up drilling, 500 meters to the north. Another pretty splashy hit, FAVD 64, 8.5 meters at 8.6 grams per ton gold. So across this 1.3 kilometer trend, every hole drilled into this geochem and anomaly intersected gold of some form. So, and let me just delete these. So here's the first section we'll look at. This is the southernmost section, and what you can see based on the distribution of gold, we have this bulk tonnage gold situation as highlighted by FAVD 71, 140 meters at 0.8 grams per ton gold. As you move further to the north, the discovery hole, hole 62, 65 meters at 1.5 grams per ton gold. So the east dipping shear zones have been explored for 370 meters down dip. What we know about Kittilä so far is that the gold mineralization there extends below 2,000 meters, so 2 kilometers. So there's nothing to suggest these systems die with depth, and there's nothing to suggest that there aren't the potential to define parallel shear zones with deeper drilling. So based on the modeling we know so far, these systems remain open along strike and at depth. Look at a few more. Again, this is in between hole 62 and 64. FAVD 66 hit a broad zone of mineralization as well. And one of the better holes, FAVD 64, the previous one was 66, 64, again, 55 meters at close to 2 grams per ton gold. This area has not been followed up. So there's quite a bit of exploration opportunity to drill holes in and around hole 64, really chasing the distribution and the orientation and the scale of the high-grade gold mineralization, which is presently not constrained. We'll look at a little bit more at the geochemistry and targeting across the PANA project. So this is a map showing the distribution of gold, arsenic, and antimony. So really that geochemical fingerprint that we use to chase these types of deposits. That really highlighted Arnavalkia West, which led them in to do that really tighter space, shallow drilling. Another target, which is quite interesting to us, is Arnavalkia East. It's 2.4 kilometers away from Arnavalkia West. Shallow drilling so far, 13 holes, up to 10.7 grams per ton gold. So this system remains open, and we really want to get back in there and really define a gold system there as well. So what does that look like going forward? Well, our proposed exploration plan will involve first geoscience. And I think we really need to underpin our exploration with strong geoscience. So we need to get back in there, get up to Kittilä, and really define a strong lithological, structural, and alteration model. A lot of the drilling from 2017 to 2020 was logged by different geologists. So we need to get back in and really define that exploration model. We'll follow that up with some IP geophysics, some ground mag, probably some drone mag, just to really get a better handle on the footprints and the structural fabric across this camp, and really drilling. And I think the focus will be on drilling, targeting the high grade controls and extensions of those zones that we looked at Arnavalkia West. And we'll look at some shallow drilling, use the tools that were used to define Arnavalkia West and apply that over at Arnavalkia East. really define high priority drill targets there as well.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I mean, the takeaway there is that it's open in all directions. There's some high grade, obvious targets that we're going to really focus in on our first campaign to really reset ourselves in the market here. When S2 made their discovery, they got up to almost 100 million market cap. There's quite a bit of excitement around that. So we'll be very focused on this initial campaign. It'll be modest, but we'll get a lot of information out of it, including more information on the structure and really get a handle on what will then it take to get to a resource and get on that pathway, similar to what Rupert has had. So some very exciting stuff. That is really our main focus. That's what we are keyed in on and excited about. But we do have a few extra pieces that certainly put meat on the bone of this transaction, and that would be our joint ventures. I mentioned before we have two of them, one with Kinross, one with Rupert. Kinross is spending 9 million to earn up to 70% interest. Rupert is spending 5 million to get a 70% interest as well. Both are about a third of the way through their spending commitments. If either of them hits, then that would be a bonus. Kinross was drilling just in the last month or so, so it'll be interesting to see what their results will be. Of course, S2 is the option on to JV our Australian project, so we look forward for that to advance as well. One other piece that I mentioned earlier was this Putin-Para project that we have, which is down on the Circa Shear. It was candidly, it was further down our list up until a couple of months ago when B2 and Orion made their discovery. That is less than 1 kilometer from the property. So we will do some work on that to see if that mineralization extends onto the property. And perhaps we can do something creative and monetize that down the road as well. So in kind of conclusion here, we spent a long time looking at different projects and areas around the world. This is one area that, as mentioned, is becoming globally significant. It attracted money even in a really tough market over the last couple of years. It's got a concentration of majors with few juniors that is unusual for the area. We have a dominant land position on the northern trending shears. And the best discovery that's not in control of a major. We've structured this, I think, in a very compelling way. It's important to know that there are no cheaper shares out there. This is the entry level, so everybody's coming in at the same level. I'm putting my money in at this level. And really, when we look at projects, and this comes from Craig and his career, is we look at, what's the size of the prize, what is the cost of the test, and what is the chance of success? And these greenstone belts, the size of the prize is big. They host big deposits with very fertile rocks that are there. The cost of the test, I know we're getting this for a very reasonable price. And exploration is not cheap, but it's not expensive either. We don't have to put in a camp. We have good access. There's very good infrastructure that is there. And the chance of success, I think we're high. We're definitely not, hoping to discover something. We're in a system. All the drilling so far has hit some form of mineralization, including some very good high grade intercepts that we hope to follow up on. So Magda, I think that's it for now, and happy to open it up if there are any questions out there.
All right. Well, thank you both. So just a question about the acquisition. I think you've covered the terms, but when do you expect the transaction to close?
Yeah, so we're hoping so we've raised over half the 5 million required so far. We need to raise the final 5 this month. We hope to do our next tranche on the 17th of the month. Ultimately, the whole transaction will close on our AGM, which is towards the end of August, at which time we will start trading again.
Okay, got it. Thank you. And then hypothetically, how would you look to start drilling this year, or would there be more time needed?
Yeah, so we have our exploration licenses. We need to give them about 2 or 3 weeks notices. If everything works out the way we think it will, we hope to be on the ground in September and drilling in September. Yeah.
Got it. And then turning to the geology a little bit, are all the projects covered by overburden or till? And how would you plan to see through overburden to define targets?
Yeah, very good question. The entire central Lapland is covered by till, 5 to 10 meters. So what was done by the S2 technical team was really looking at and interpreting the regional geophysics, looking for inflections in shear zones, and using that as a way to focus soil geochemistry. Ionic leach, which seemed to work through the till, and then follow that up with just typical till geochemistry, then top of bedrock drilling. And what's pretty spectacular about the tills here in Finland is that they haven't moved very much. So the geochemistry that you observe in the till is relatively in situ. And that observation led to the discovery of Kittilä back in '85. And it's what was used fundamentally to define Arnavalkia West.
Okay, got it. Thank you. And so far in your exploration, can you kind of talk a little bit about what kind of similarities you might be seeing between your projects and the really big deposits like Agnico Eagle's Kittilä mine?
Yeah, it's early days. I mean, we only have 13,000 meters of drilling, and only a little bit of that is at depth. But what we know so far is that Kittilä, the alteration signature there is at sodium enrichment, so the strong albite alteration. And we see strong albite alteration throughout the drilling at Arnavalkia West. We are situated along splays or along north trending shear zone, so very similar structural orientation. But beyond that, it's still an exploration thesis right now, and we really need more drilling to really define that similarity.
Okay, got it. And just touching on Arnavalkia a little bit. So based on the 1,300 meters of strike drilling and the depths of 300 to 400 meters, can you kind of talk about what sorts of potential mineralized zone widths and thicknesses you might be looking for?
Yeah, Chris, can you flip back a few slides, just a couple of the cross sections there? Yeah, I think that one's fine. So what we're looking at here, this is just distribution of golds. This is just gold assays down hole, but I think that really highlights the structural corridors that we're modeling here. So let's go back to the annotation tool. So this would be one. This is 100 meters. So this section across here, so this mineralized zone here is up to 100 meters wide, and again up here as well with near continuous gold mineralization. All drilling is west dipping holes chasing east dipping shear zones. So we don't really know what the true thicknesses are, but based on the modeling, this looks pretty accurate.
Got it. Thank you. And can you walk us through like a bit of a discovery blueprint for an asset like Penna? Like after you identify a target, how much work do you need to do before you can start drill testing?
A lot of the discovery here is by drill testing. So it's a shallow drilling. So once you have a good geophysical target, then you can layer on geochemistry. So like I said, the soil geochemistry proved to be pretty effective, following up with till geochemistry. So those are all superficial geochemical tools, which are used as a proxy for the geochemistry of the underlying bedrock. And then once you have a coincident signature with the geochemistry and the geophysics, then shallow drilling. So if you look at this section here, so all these holes, all those near surface holes across that trend were all exploration holes. Those were systematic exploration holes, just drilling through the till just to get, a section, maybe 10 to 100 meters of bedrock, and using what we can observe from that, the geochemistry, the logging, the structural information from that hole to target the deeper holes. And that systematic approach took a few years by S2, but it really set the framework for our work that we intend to do going forward. So it was a labor of love, but they really defined a pretty exciting gold target, which hasn't been followed up since 2020.
Got it. So then, given the work done to date and given, plans for a drill program this year, where would you look to go? Like, what would you look to drill test?
The first target we intend to drill is this target, Arnavalkia West. We need to get a better handle on the orientation and trends of the higher grade shear zones. And prior to doing that, a systematic core relog, like I said before, really focused on defining the structural grain. Once that's all said and done, we'll look for targeting those higher grade zones by systematic step outs from where they've already hit, and then filling in the gaps along that long section, and then stepping out to the north, south, and east and west, and at depth, just to really define the footprint or the scale of what we're dealing with here. So it'll be a two-prong approach in investigating scale and also looking at high grade.
And then touching on those JV assets, what's the focus of work on each, and how far into the earn-in period are those?
Yeah, I mean, as mentioned, they're about a third of the way through, so they've been doing some of that early work that S2, similar to what they did in kind of 2017 and 18, and they're starting to drill now. At least in the case of Kinross, they were drilling last month. We haven't got news from Rupert yet what their plans are for this year. We're waiting to connect with them and get that information. One of the benefits of the JV though is that we do get regular contact with those two groups who are obviously active in the area, and we'll get the benefit of their news flow as well, and hopefully they're successful, and that's obviously good for us.
And you touched on how in Finland there's so few juniors and majors active already. Why has the Greenstone belt not been explored for gold until very recently, especially by juniors?
Yeah, I mean that's a good question. Really the discovery wasn't made there until the mid '80s, and then I mentioned George in his company Reader Hayden. And I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that properly, but they really were the first ones to have some success, and then so that was 99 to 2006. Then Agnico had to advance that, so it really wasn't until probably 2010 that Finland or this area of Finland got on the map. And then, that Kila success wasn't really replicated until S2 made their discovery, and Rupert, more importantly, Rupert made their discovery and got the Akari project into light here. So it's just, I don't know the reason prior to 85 why, but it just really hasn't seen the type of exploration you've seen in other greenstones around the world.
Okay, got it. And how does the regulatory framework compare to other jurisdictions?
Yeah, I mean, it's fairly straight forward in terms of land tenements and so forth, and that you got to you pay depending on the type of license you have on each project. But they're very, very responsive. TUKS, which is the Finnish Geological Survey, has an excellent database, and I've done quite a bit of work that's most of it's which is translated into English, which is beneficial, but it certainly helps in the early exploration, having that information easily accessible.
And do you have a sense of what the availability of like mining and exploration talent is like in Finland?
Yeah, I mean it's good. The fact that you've got operating mine there, and you've got quite a bit of activity and programs that are going on within 100 kilometers of where we're at. There are mining towns right around us, which is good. And then the benefit of Europe is you're very close to a lot of other countries. This is not remote. A lot of workers live elsewhere and are able to fly in, an hour away. So in terms of workers, there's skilled labor that's readily accessible.
Okay, awesome. And kind of as we wrap up, can you walk us through the news flow expected over the rest of the year?
Yeah, so I mean, the next step is just closing this financing, which hopefully in the next month, and then having our AGM and completing the transaction next month. I hope to launch a drill program in September, and then I would imagine you're going to start getting first results coming out around Christmas time. So we won't have to wait long. We certainly think we finally may have hit timing in the right way. We signed it just before gold really went on its run here in March. And so if we get a little bit of a tailwind in the gold price and more good news out of the area, which raises all boats. And then, of course, if we can just find the similar or better success than what S2 had before, I think we're very, very well positioned to see some good appreciation on from the level we're coming at now. We're coming out at only a 13 million market cap, which I think is very modest.
Yeah, no, it's definitely an exciting time to be doing a drill program like this. Was there anything else either one of you wanted to cover that we didn't get a chance to get to today?
No, I guess that's about it. But happy to talk to anybody directly, or if you have some more technical questions, whatever it may be, you can reach me at cdonaldson@outbackgoldfields.com. And happy to tee up a Zoom or a call or whatever it may be. Again, it's cdonaldson@outbackgoldfields.com.
Well, thank you both. If anybody has any other questions, you can also email myself or Deborah. And thank you both. Have a great afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Take care.
Great. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Magda. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.